Hi, I'm Dr. Craig Martin and welcome to the Inside Connection. We have a really great show lined up here. The topic is the element of air. Air is connected to our mind. It's about communication and the fact that we as humans think. Yes, think. Maybe some of us don't do a lot of that, our own thinking that is, but that's because the mind is so easily distracted and always moving from one place to another, just like the air outside, the air in nature. But that's because our minds are always looking for something new, like a breath of fresh air. In our lives, the element air represents the conversations we have with people, what we read and learn, our sense of humor, our relationships, that's a big one, who and how we socialize, and what connects us as people. It's all about connections. Air symbolizes people who are journalists, writers, diplomats, comedians, and the idealists in the world who make a statement about what we are as people. Some really great people have been born under an air sign, people like Gandhi, Lincoln, Mozart, and Anne Frank, but also present-day thinkers like Jimmy Carter, Rosa Parks, John Lennon, and Oprah. These people all had ideas that they wanted to share with us. What is the element of air about anyway? Well, it's the element that rules our mind and the way that we think. But it's not about intellectualism, it's about thinking and communicating, and we all do that. Air is about how we use language to explain our experiences. Even our feelings are something that we need to put into words so that other people can know where we're coming from. We love to share what we're experiencing with each other, and air is the element that does the job. Air signs represent language, negotiating, and socializing. In fact, all the air signs are social, and the way that we communicate could be how we communicate with ourselves, with one other person, or with a group of people, and air is in charge of all of it. Also, communication is not just about talking. Writing is also a big part of air. If you think of the way that email and texting have taken off and taken over our lives, you can see that we love to communicate in writing too. And just one more thing, air is looking for truth. That's why humanitarians are a part of air. Truth and fairness. It also rules humor. Comedians are always putting the truth in our face and making us laugh about it. So let's take a look at the positive traits of air. First of all, there are 3 air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Each one has positive and negative traits, but it's the positive ones we'll focus on now. For Gemini, Geminis are very witty. They understand the playful use of language. They're known for their sense of humor, and they're usually pretty well read. They have tons of information at their disposal, like they're an encyclopedia of facts and knowledge. Anderson Cooper is a great example of a Gemini. He's super versatile in all the information that he knows. Gemini also rules writing, and there are some really famous writers like Allen Ginsberg, Walt Whitman, Arthur Conan Doyle, and Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming, his main character, James Bond, is daring, witty, and has an incredibly wry sense of humor. Totally Gemini. Comedy is another really important part of air, and Geminis, also because they rule humor, they have a desire to reveal the truth through language. Comedians like Gene Wilder, Mike Myers, and even Michael J. Fox are also well-known Geminis in comedy. Let's look at Libra now. Libras are fair-minded, relationship-oriented, and diplomatic. They want balance. You know their sign is the scale. They recognize that in order to find the truth, you can't be in the extremes. The truth has to be somewhere in the middle. As an air sign, Libra rules negotiations and compromise and our ability to see another person's side of the story. Jimmy Carter, Sam Adams, and even Gandhi represent the best of Libra's positive traits. John Lennon was also a Libra. He was looking for fairness and truth. And Barbara Walters, very diplomatic in her interviews on The View, always tries to bring balance from one side of the story to the other. She has that steady, neutral approach to a story or a particular person that's so Libra. On to Aquarius. Aquarians are idealistic. They're humanitarian, high-minded, and they have a utopian vision. Their truth has to do with society in general. It has to do with friendship, groups, and community. They see the ideal potential in each of us. They're usually quite helpful and very generous. They can see that the truth of who we are demands that we recognize our potential. Aquarius is about friendship. Who better for us to see ourselves than our friends? In fact, Jennifer Aniston is an Aquarius, and she starred in the show called Friends. Aquarians are involved in making people feel good about themselves and their lives. People like Oprah, or Mozart, who communicated his vision through music, or Lincoln, who wrote and spoke about human ideals. Rosa Parks had the truth behind her when she sat in the front of that bus. She knew what felt right to her. She was doing it because she couldn't stand the injustice. Aquarians are activists. Activism for the sake of truth. It's about getting to the truth and expressing it. Oh, serious now. Let's take a look at the negative traits of the 3 air signs. All 3 air signs can shut down. They can become just as uncommunicative as they are communicative when they're good. When they feel that things are not balanced or the truth is not present, then they will not want to communicate at all, the opposite of their natural state. Why do we think that Geminis are such amazing liars and so duplicitous? If they can't find the truth, then they'll go to their shadow side. Geminis are known as liars because they're good with language, so they're good at telling lies. They can tell a lie as if it is the truth. Good liars are people who can remove themselves from their emotions, and Geminis can do just that since they're so good with words. The shadow side of Libra is dependency. Libra can get stuck in their own notion of fairness. They can feel that something is unfair, or from their own limited perspective of what fairness looks like, they can become so narrow-minded about certain aspects of compromise. If a situation is already not fair, we might have to have a much bigger response in order to be able to make it fair. But Libra can't see that when they're in the shadow. They can become dependent on relationships, so they have a hard time being alone. They need a relationship in order to have that compromise, and they struggle to find relationships so they can be in a situation where they can work it out with someone. Dependency on relationships is definitely a shadow side of Libra. And Aquarians, they can be cold and distant. They get disappointed when their ideals are not met. They have a perfectionistic vision and an ideal situation in their mind, and they apply that to all the individuals and everyone that they know until it can't live up to it, and someone else's idealistic vision of what it is that they see and who we are. They become distant, unemotional, and removed. All the air signs can get that way. When they are not experiencing freedom of thought and truth, the truth that they crave, they become cold, and a chilly wind blows in the heart of a jaded air sign. People think that Aquarius is a water sign, that it's bearing the water, it's pouring the water onto the ground. But really, it's an air sign. So what does that expression, the water bearer, actually mean, since that's what's creating all of the confusion? I think the thing to focus on there is not the water, but the bearing, that Aquarius actually carries the water. In astrology, water is connected with emotions. So while Aquarius is not about emotions, it's the air that carries the emotions to us. Aquarius is capable of explaining or expressing the emotions of society, the emotions of others, without actually getting caught up in them. Air and water is customarily not a good combination because air is usually involved in socializing, community, and language, and water is very deep and emotional. It's the last thing that air wants is to be concerned with the heavier emotions of water, and water thinks that air is too superficial and not concerned with emotional depth. When it's positive, air connects well with water and it's able to put language or words to feelings. That's good, right? If the air sign person takes the time to connect with water, it can help them to express in words what they're feeling. On the opposite side of things, water is able to give air some depth. They wouldn't have this if they didn't have an emotional person in their life. It can be heavy at times, but it can also create more than just the ceaseless chatter and socializing of the air person. Celebrity couple who's air and water that's doing just great is Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel. Congratulations to the both of them. This is the winning circle for air. If you're an air person, you have to ask yourself, how can I use those air attributes to advantage in my life? The winning circle for air is finding a way to use your great people skills, your sense of language, and your fantastic social style, and be in a place where your sense of humor is well received. Be a negotiator, a diplomat, work with people you feel friendly with. Air people are great team players, great teachers, writers, presenters. Go into a profession involving reading and talking, communicating, or sales. These are all great areas for people with air in their chart. Remember, air likes a social environment that they feel is friendly. Air is social. They don't like to be isolated. They need to be able to communicate, and it doesn't need to be deep, but it needs to feel friendly. That's the winning circle for air. Shauna, hi, welcome to the Inside Connection.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So they told me that you're calling in from Beverly Hills.
Absolutely.
So, you know you're an Aquarius, and sometimes you probably feel a little bit Aquarian. You're very funny, you got a good sense of humor, you can talk a good talk, you can make people laugh, you like friends, you like connections. There's some really strong air, elemental air in your chart, and it makes you good with language, it makes you a good writer and a good speaker and a good teacher. Have you ever followed any of those paths?
Well, I'm thinking about dabbling into writing now. Actually,
Okay.
That's funny that you say that. So
Good. Yeah,
I'm trying to start doing that now.
That's good, but you've always kind of known that you're good with words, right? Because
Right.
you have an uncanny way of making people laugh.
Right.
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 One of the things that's really interesting about your chart is that it has some real strong Scorpio in it, some real strong Scorpio energy, which, well, makes you sexy, and it makes you, to some people, perhaps a little bit dangerous. Like, I'm sure you've gotten that, like, whoa, what is this energy? Can't quite figure her out. People don't necessarily like to be seen as clearly as you can see them.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you talk about Venus in your chart because you're a woman, and so it's a strong part of your chart is in Pisces. It makes you really imaginative, sometimes too sensitive. We have to talk about, past loves. Who was the last one?
He was a Pisces.
Most crazy making.
Oh,
like they make
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it was dreadful.
Yeah, did you save him?
Yes, of course I did. He was so needy. He was so dependent. He needed me to be his mother, his father, his doctor, his lawyer, his nurse, everything. And I did. And I saved him, and then I let him go. I'm always saving men. I need somebody to save me.
Well, what you want to do is you want to be with someone where you're encouraging each other to save yourselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. That's all I ask for. It's so simple. That's it.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's hard to find. So let me tell you, first you need to find someone with a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You need to find someone with a sense of humor and someone that can stand up on their own. Somebody that's got something going on and definitely has their stuff together.
Oh, right.
You understand?
Absolutely.
Okay, because this energy is here right now for a new relationship for you.
Okay.
You know, and I know it's something that you've been visualizing. It's,
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely. I have.
but that focus again needs to be on that it's a more elevated kind of love where you're connected to the person, where you sometimes don't really need to speak in order to be able to, you know, like know what's going on with each other, where you give each other space.
Right.
Not somebody who's dependent or codependent or addicted or who thinks that you're going to save them. Got to be careful of that, because if you haven't worked that out yet, you could draw that back into your life again. So when you say, I'm looking for someone to come and save me, that would mean you're going to let them be in control.
True.
And if I'm telling you don't pick people who want to be saved, then I'm telling you not to go out and look for relationships where you're going to be in control.
Okay.
Okay? That's really a huge message for you. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was really nice to meet you. Barbara, welcome to the Inside Connection. I was told that you're calling in from Germany.
Yes, from Hamburg.
You know that you're a Virgo.
Yes.
You actually have a lot of Virgo in your chart, so it's probably amazing for you to even be able to sometimes make a decision, because you probably feel a lot like, oh my God, am I going to make a mistake? Is this the right thing to do? A lot of times Virgo energy is looking for the perfect solution or the perfect thing that's going to make everything just right, just work out absolutely the way that they believe it's supposed to, and sometimes makes it difficult to be able to say, that's the right choice and that's the thing I need to do.
Very right.
Yeah. The next thing about your chart also is that you have several planets in Libra, which is good because it makes you very fair-minded and very balanced, and you want equality in your relationships, and you like peace, and you like harmony, and you really, even though you could be very judgmental and hard on yourself and sometimes on other people, inside you don't really like judgment. Venus was in Libra. Venus is about femininity, and you're a woman, so we look at Venus in a woman's chart and say, how does that connect with the Virgo part? So there's a lot of perfectionism, but also efficiency. You know, there's a positive side to all that, Virgo. You know how to get the job done. You're very service oriented. You're willing to bend over backwards for people and really service, you know, a sort of a life of service to others is a big theme for your chart. Yeah. So I want to ask you one thing about work. Do you work? Do you have a job or a career?
No, I used to work, and I have twins. And they are 7 years now, and I don't work anymore.
Okay, that's fine.
But I used to work in advertising as an account service person.
Right.
And my second job was a sales person, so that's also all about service. And you are so right in what you said, but it's not always positive. At least I don't perceive it as positive. Sometimes I would have preferred to be less service oriented and to be more for me, you know. The
destiny point in your chart is actually in Aries. And Aries is very much about having it be for me, for the self, you know. But that place in your chart is actually in the spot of the home. So one of the things that it sounds like you're working on doing is taking all of that service, which you really can't get away from. You know, it's very much a part of your public image. And public image and the way in which you're perceived socially is very important to you. Not in a negative way. It's not like saying like, oh, you're concerned with, you know, keeping up with the Joneses or that kind of thing. But it's more about the way in which you want yourself to be seen publicly. And you could have done that through marriage. You could have married someone where you felt like you were connecting with a partner who was going to be able to bring you to a certain place, a certain kind of social environment that you wanted to be in. And what happens after that is that the home environment is strangely the place where you get to have it be about you.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I was lucky enough to marry such a person.
Yeah.
Who could provide me with all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, somewhat, interestingly, somewhat it's about luck, and on some level it's also about what the chart says that you were destined to attract. And it doesn't mean that you didn't have choices, it's just that life is about energy patterns, and your energy patterns are about service and relationships, individuality in the home, finding a husband with a really big personality, someone who actually is kind of quite showy, maybe even a little bit full of himself and perhaps likes being the center of attention, and yet it's good for you because that person brings a largeness to your life and to the way in which you're seen as a couple publicly. In your chart, Mars, the planet Mars, is in Leo. And normally for a woman, this isn't something that a woman would really necessarily connect with. She would be more connected to her Venus energy, and she would be looking for the Mars energy in her chart in the partner that she would choose. So inside of you, there's someone who wants to be noticed, but it's the Mars energy part, and you would pick a man who's noticeable.
Wow, I'm kind of speechless, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's really interesting. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. I'm Dr. Craig Martin. Thanks for joining me on The Inside Connection. I'll see you next time.